A single reporter once described it as the kind of story that crawls beneath your skin and never lets go. At first glance, nothing about the day of its discovery seemed extraordinary, but beneath the surface, pieces of a mystery that had lingered for centuries were quietly falling into place. Over 1,000 years earlier, the two ancient cities of Thonis Heraklion and Canopus had vanished, not into thin air, but beneath the waters of the Mediterranean, leaving behind silence, whispers, and questions that would haunt generations of historians. When the truth finally emerged, even the most seasoned experts found themselves stunned. This is the story of Egypt's sunken city, its secrets and the revelations that continue to ripple through the worlds of archaeology and history. For centuries, the legend endured in fragments. Ancient Greek historians such as Herodotus wrote of a thriving port city named Heraklion, a vital hub where ships from across the Mediterranean moored beside Egyptian barges, where traders unloaded their cargo, and where colossal temples towered above bustling canals. Egyptian records, meanwhile, told of a place called Thonis, the beating heart of Egypt's maritime trade. For generations, scholars assumed these were separate cities, two distinct points on Egypt's map. But slowly, evidence began to suggest they were one and the same, a city so crucial to Egypt's lifeline that its disappearance seemed almost unthinkable. And yet, for centuries, no one could find it. The shoreline of the Nile Delta shifted. Earthquakes shook the ground. The sea advanced inland, swallowing the land. Whatever remained of this legendary city seemed lost forever, devoured by time and water. That belief changed in the year 2000. French underwater archaeologist Franck Gaudiot, working with the European Institute for Underwater Archaeology, led a team into the shallow waters of Abu Qir Bay, just a few miles off the modern Egyptian coast. Equipped with advanced survey instruments, they scanned the seabed for signs that myth might, in fact, conceal truth. What they found exceeded all expectation. Beneath layers of sand and clay lay the outlines of a vast cityscape preserved under the waves. Streets and waterways etched themselves into the seabed like ghostly veins. Canal walls rose straight from the mud. Docks reached toward what had once been the shoreline, and temple foundations remained where builders had laid them thousands of years earlier. The stones were carved with hieroglyphs still legible after centuries, whispering the city's name into the silence of the deep. Among the most astonishing discoveries were 3 colossal statues carved from red granite. They represented a pharaoh, his queen, and Hapi, the god of the Nile. Each figure weighed several tons, and though toppled by catastrophe, they lay intact as if placed in a tomb by the sea itself. Their inscriptions, though softened by water, still declare the city's might and devotion. Then came the decisive proof, a massive inscribed stele from the reign of Pharaoh Nectanebo I. On its surface were both names, Thonis in Egyptian, Heraklion in Greek, confirming at last that they referred to a single city. The legend was real. Heraklion had been found. The one question loomed above all. How had such a prosperous metropolis disappeared so completely? Historical records hinted at a series of disasters. Earthquakes, floods, the kind of seismic shock that could liquefy the very ground, swallowing streets, temples, and homes in moments. Geologists call the phenomenon soil liquefaction, a process where solid earth behaves like liquid. For a city built on the water's edge, it was a recipe for destruction. Archaeologists studying the site's sediment layers believe Heraklion's collapse may not have been a single disaster, but a chain of events. An earthquake may have weakened its foundations, tilting temples and docks into the sea. A second disaster, years later, could have shattered what remained. In the centuries that followed, the Nile covered the ruins with thick silt, sealing the city away.
The implications were monumental. Heraklion had once been Egypt's principal port before Alexandria rose to prominence. It was through this city that trade, wealth, and foreign influence flowed. Its destruction altered the balance of power and reshaped the course of Egypt's history. And yet, Despite the magnitude of its rediscovery, only a fraction of the city has been excavated. Murky waters and dense clay make exploration painstakingly slow. But these same conditions preserve delicate artifacts in remarkable condition. Wooden ships, bronze weights, gold coins, ceremonial vessels, even fine jewelry. Each object emerges from the seabed like a time capsule, a silent witness to a world thought lost forever. The process of uncovering such a city is a feat of science as much as archaeology. Before divers can reach an artifact, the ocean floor must first be mapped in extraordinary detail. Teams rely on side-scan sonar to sweep sound waves across the seabed, detecting disruptions in the natural rhythm of sand and rock. Sharp lines, corners, and mounds betray human structures. Magnetometers measure faint variations in the Earth's magnetic field, revealing buried metals or stone structures rich in minerals. Sub-bottom profilers probe deep beneath the surface, locating hidden layers where ancient walls or ship hulls may rest. Once anomalies are identified, differential GPS pinpoints their exact positions with centimeter-level accuracy, guiding divers or robotic vehicles back to the same location in treacherous conditions. Remotely operated vehicles, ROVs, have become the backbone of this work. Unlike human divers, they can remain submerged for hours, squeeze into tight corridors, and handle fragile artifacts with robotic precision. Outfitted with cameras, lights, and even sediment suction devices, they reveal the submerged world with a clarity that was impossible only a generation ago. Still, the environment remains a constant challenge. Visibility in Abu Qir Bay can shrink to less than a meter. Currents shift equipment, silt clouds obscure cameras, and anomalies often prove to be nothing but rocks or modern debris. Yet patience rewards persistence. Each time a faint sonar outline sharpens into the unmistakable form of an ancient wall or statue, centuries of effort feel vindicated. The treasures brought to light so far are as varied as they are remarkable. Near the Grand Temple of Amun, divers uncovered collapsed stone blocks that have entombed sacred treasures for millennia. Among them lay silver ritual instruments, bowls, ladles, and offering plates, alongside delicate alabaster vessels that once held sacred oils. Their craftsmanship spoke not of daily use, but of ceremonies and devotion. Nearby, a Greek sanctuary dedicated to Aphrodite revealed bronze figurines, ceramic vessels, and marble fragments, evidence of foreign traders who had lived among Egyptians in this cosmopolitan port. Weapons scattered through the site, swords, spears, and arrowheads of Greek design, spoke of mercenaries and soldiers, a reminder that prosperity required protection. In another sector, divers found the remains of a massive wooden galley over 80 feet long, preserved beneath layers of collapsed masonry. Experts believe the ship had been moored when the harbor itself gave way, entombing the vessel in an instant of catastrophe. Even more surprising were humble baskets still filled with fruit seeds, preserved under clay for more than 2 millennia. Though no longer edible, they provide rare insight into the diet and agriculture of the period. Every find adds a layer to the story of a city at its height. Wealthy, diverse, and powerful, brought low by forces beyond control. Yet, just when it seemed the greatest secrets had already surfaced, a discovery in recent years shocked even the most hardened experts. On a calm morning in Abu Qir Bay, Frank Gaudio's team piloted an underwater drone into an unmapped corridor between 2 sections of collapsed stone. At first, the footage revealed little more than slabs and seagrass. Then the geometry shifted. Granite blocks appeared, not in random disarray, but interlocked in a deliberate, unnatural design. The formation extended far beyond the camera's reach, its precision unlike anything previously documented at the site. On one block, the faint trace of an inscription emerged. Its very existence suggested that the known boundaries of Heraklion were incomplete, that another district, perhaps an entire quarter of the city, still slept beneath the seabed. The revelation carried sobering implications. If this newly discovered section had collapsed with the rest of the city, then the scale of the ancient disaster was far greater than anyone had realized. Experts began to reconsider not just the magnitude of the earthquakes, but their relevance to the present. Could similar conditions one day threaten modern cities along the delta? The possibility, however remote, added a new urgency to the work. The team's mission shifted from discovery to preservation. Weighted sandbags stabilized loose debris. Markers guided future expeditions back to fragile corridors. Three-dimensional models recreated the ruins digitally, providing archaeologists with safe replicas to study on land. Egypt's Ministry of Antiquities coordinated with conservationists to determine what artifacts could be recovered without destabilizing the site. Every find, from grand statues to shards of pottery, was documented with meticulous care.
Public fascination surged. Museums across the world expressed interest in exhibitions. The Grand Egyptian Museum prepared to expand its collection of Herakleon's treasures. Meanwhile, researchers emphasized that the city's preservation was not just about history, but about safeguarding cultural heritage in the face of modern threats, climate change, rising seas, and human exploitation. The sea had kept Herakleon safe for 2,000 years. Now it fell to archaeologists to ensure its survival for centuries more. And yet, for all that has been revealed, insiders admit they have barely scratched the surface. Sonar surveys point to more anomalies, straight lines, corners, and patterns too deliberate to be natural. Some lie along what would have been the city's waterfront, hinting at further docks, warehouses, or ceremonial structures. Others suggest the presence of additional shipwrecks. Ancient records describe fleets of merchant vessels entering and leaving Herakleon. Each new hull could provide unmatched insight into the shipbuilding of Egypt and its neighbors. The thick, oxygen-starved clay of the bay may have preserved them with astonishing completeness, waiting only for careful excavation. But progress is slow by necessity. Layers of sediment conceal the site like a protective blanket. Disturbing them without care risks destroying the very treasures sought. Franck Godiot often reminds his team, the city has waited 2,000 years, it can wait a little longer. Patience is not just a virtue here, it is survival. Because beneath the waves of Abu Qir Bay still sleeps a city of gods and merchants, of soldiers and sailors, of rituals and commerce. A city that once ruled the seas, vanished in catastrophe, and now returns piece by piece to remind us that even the mightiest civilizations are never immune to nature's hand. The legend was true. The city was real. And what still lies buried may yet change everything we thought we knew about the ancient world.